Well, good morning. Thank you all for being with us today for this very special moment in Illinois history. It's the centennial celebration of the Illinois State Police. I'm joined this morning by ISP Director Brendan Kelly, who has humbly led the rebuilding of the force under my administration. Retired State Police Captain Donald Norton, Lieutenant Jody Hoffman, Sergeant Jasmine Dixon, Sergeant December Melville, Trooper Sergio Rodriguez, Trooper Kevin Howell, Trooper Josh Yeager, and Trooper Joshua Elote. On behalf of Illinoisans up and down the state, I want to offer my deepest gratitude for all that you do. Each day you honor the tradition of integrity, service, and pride that has always been the real meaning of ISP, and you do it while responding to the needs of our time. Of course, the public safety fulfilled by the state police 100 years ago looked a little bit different than it does today. In 1922, the state of Illinois needed to maintain order and safety on its massive number of newly paved roads. There was no reliable way to get help if tragedy struck, no way to keep residents protected during their travels, no way to regulate trucking that would become a major part of our economy. In that moment of need, a handful of courageous citizens answered the call of duty. Thus, the Illinois State Police was born. It's safe to say the Illinois State Police has changed an awful lot since then. As threats have evolved over the decades, as our understanding of public safety has expanded, so too have the duties of the Illinois State Police. The makeup of the ranks of our state troopers has changed too. Women and people of color weren't allowed to serve 100 years ago. Today, they are among ISP's highest ranks. Now a department that's nearly 3,000 strong, ISP continues to monitor our state highways, but the department also provides forensic testing, crime scene services, investigations, intelligence, cybersecurity, disaster response, and a spectrum of support for all local law enforcement throughout the state. Public service in the Illinois State Police is a true commitment. The workday never truly ends. And as our troopers know too well, life as a first responder includes grueling moments, wrenching moments that challenge you to remember why you chose service. But for every moment that brings challenges for the men and women of ISP, there are countless more that give deep meaning to your commitment. Your work allows the people of Illinois the safety they deserve when they're just living their lives, on the road and in their neighborhoods. The work of ISP allows families to exercise their right to build a brighter future for their children. Your work strengthens the people and places that you love, the state that you love, just like it did for the first class of troopers 100 years ago. I know that Illinois can only thrive when its people are safe. It's why I've worked closely with Director Brendan Kelly to expand and invest in the growth of ISP every year since I took office. On top of the hundreds of sworn officers we've hired over the last 3 years, my proposed budget for the coming year will add the largest number of state police cadets in any single year. It's also why we reestablished the Division of Criminal Investigations when I first took office, why we hired more forensic scientists and investigators, and why we dedicated more than $100 million to ISP facilities, including building new crime labs that benefit our ability to catch and prosecute criminals across the state. These are investments that will serve as the foundation for the ISP's next century. But the force's single greatest resource is all of you, our troopers. Illinois' everyday heroes, the people who dedicate your days, your nights, and too often risk your lives to ensure that the words public safety have real meaning for every Illinoisan. You, the men and women of the Illinois State Police will shape the next chapter of the department with your courage, your integrity, your service, and your pride. And I have every faith in the success that is yet to come. Today, I'm issuing a proclamation declaring this 100th year to be the year of the Illinois State Police for all of Illinois, from April 1st of this year to April 1st of next year, so that all our residents are reminded of the importance of the work that you do that keeps Illinois safe and free. When we hit 20, that's when you start. Stand with me, we'll hold it together, and we'll get a couple of shots. Go ahead, there, Kevin. Great. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
On behalf of the nearly 3,000 strong, outstanding public servants of the greatest law enforcement agency on planet Earth, the Illinois State Police, thank you for kicking off the ISP Centennial, celebrating 100 years of integrity, service, and pride. On Friday, April 1st, 2022, we will celebrate 100 years of protecting the public, ensuring public safety, fighting crime, and seeking justice. Well, 100 years is a long time, but as 91 years young, Captain Norton will tell you, it's not the years, it's the miles. And in recent years, we've covered a lot of tough but important miles together, overcoming tremendous and sometimes heartbreaking challenges. From confronting dangers, loss, and violence head on with our chin up, to providing support to local and federal law enforcement and IDPH during the pandemic, to leading and coordinating the deployment of the National Guard across the state at your direction, Governor, to assist our local and federal partners during civil unrest, disasters, and threats to the homeland. We have held up and held fast to the enduring values and the best traditions of the Illinois State Police. And throughout those trials, we have continued to execute the mandate to rebuild the Illinois State Police as we seek justice and safety for all. We've leaned in, fought forward, and rebuilding is exactly what we're doing. After decades of being behind the curve, the forensic backlog across all disciplines is the lowest it's been since 2001. Which means more justice for victims. Firearms services has been overhauled. 99% of FOID guards are being processed within the statute, and last year we stopped a record 25,000 unlawful attempts to obtain a firearm. We've taken more unlawful firearms from dangerous criminals, seized more deadly drugs like fentanyl, and locked up more child abusers each year more than the previous year since 2019. We've strengthened the move-over law. We've overseen the expansion of 911 to all 102 counties, and we smartly kept the academy open during the pandemic, commissioning more than 260 more troopers. Those are just a few things this great agency has done in this challenging time, and there is more to do to protect our people and the public, and we are now fully engaged in the fight against violent crime in ways we've not been before as we rise to meet those challenges. But with the largest capital investment in ISP's facilities ever, with the largest budget in ISP's history ever, with the largest allocation for new cadets in a single year ever, we are moving forward with the wind at our backs into a second century of the ISP, into a second century of integrity, service, and pride. Governor, I think I hand it back to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Director Kelly. We're only lucky enough to celebrate 100 years of the Illinois State Police today because of the individual sacrifices of countless Illinoisans over years and decades. Troopers who dedicated their lives to protecting their communities. It's 100 years bonded together by the individual commitments of many, including those men and women standing beside me, behind me, around us in this room today. Today, it's my privilege to honor one of them with a very special recognition for an incredible career in law enforcement. Captain Donald Norton served at ISP for 30 years in the Division of Criminal Investigation and Division of Narcotic Control. He was the district commander for District 3, now District Chicago, where he was awarded the Medal for Honor, once again demonstrating an ability to go above and beyond his duties in the name of service. Not only does the captain continue to dedicate his days to local law enforcement agencies across the state, he also spends that precious retirement resource, time, supporting ISP's mission and its officers. At his own expense, Captain Norton has provided military guidon flags for each cadet and recruit class over the past several years. He has also developed flags for the Office of the Director, First Deputy Director, and each division, which will be encased at a ceremony this Friday to further honor this 100th anniversary. A veteran of the Korean War and the U.S. Department of Justice, Captain Norton has spent more than 50 years in service of his community, to his state, and to his country. He is among the very best of Illinois. So without further ado, it is my honor to bestow the ISP Achievement Medal on him today. Captain. I think we're all honored to be in his presence today, and I just want to say, Captain, for your many years of service to the ISP, to the state, to all of us in keeping us safe, on behalf of the people of Illinois, I thank you.
Thank you what you've done for the state and for us, our department, and the way that you showed up at all our line of duty deaths. 4 of them right in a row. That's a tremendous emotional thing for what you did.
Thank you.
And what you're doing for our department.
Thank you, Captain. Thank you, and with that, I'm happy to take any questions from members of the media. Dave Dahl.
Gov Pritzker, today marks the year anniversary of the police of Adams who was killed by Chicago police, a child, 7th grader.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious why you picked today to do this honor when you have done it. You mentioned April 1st. So I'm curious why you picked today, but also is it possible to honor the state police, honor law enforcement, and then hold law enforcement accountable?
Well, let me begin by saying that we have several ceremonies to honor the 100th anniversary. It isn't something that happens only on one moment or only on one day. Yeah. Let me also say that I honor our police. I believe that our police are out there trying to protect our communities as best they can, sometimes in extraordinary and difficult circumstances. So we ought to stand up for our police, whether they're state police, local police. Obviously, where there are police who aren't doing the job, people who are mishandling their duties, they need to be held accountable for their actions. That, of course, means that it's important for us to, and I have supported this, make sure that we have body cameras for police. Police support them, the community supports them. It allows us with those split-second, very difficult circumstances, it allows juries or others, prosecutors, to make decisions about whether someone ought to be prosecuted, a perpetrator, or perhaps a law enforcement officer who may have done something wrong. But again, it's important for us to have that record, something that I support. Dave Dahl, who I tried to call in earlier, yeah.
Thank you, Doug, for the opportunity. Everybody on the ballot is talking about crime. Everybody.
Yes.
Why do you think that is?
Well, obviously, our crime, across the state, crime is up. We've seen this across the nation. There's no doubt that some of the fact of the pandemic recession caused people to be out of work, caused people to, to get involved with things they wouldn't have otherwise. And so we've got to make sure that we're bringing order back, that we're putting away the people who actually committed crimes. And that means supporting the ISP, it means supporting law enforcement, and I'm going to continue to do that with the work that we do, not only to build up the ISP and local law enforcement, but also to make sure that the laws are adhered to.
What the ISP looked like in 1922, what training was like. They were all passing this job, were they not? And was it dangerous to go out on the hard roads and, with equipment that, the cars weren't that reliable, radio communication?
The original vehicles were actually surplus from World War I motorcycles that were left over from the First World War that many years ago, with only 8 troopers at the time, had those old World War II motorcycles. So obviously things have evolved significantly from that day and time to the type of vehicles we have now, to the type of equipment we have now, as well as the missions that we have evolving, not just from traffic enforcement and making sure there weren't heavy trucks tearing up the old, pretty fragile roads that they had in that period, to now the many things that we do, from criminal investigations, forensics investigations, our role when it comes to our State Fusion Center and our Homeland Security duties that we support throughout the state with our federal partners. So we've come a long way, that's for sure, but in 100 years we've continued to steadily move the right direction. And to your point about the history of the ISP, it was the governor's predecessor, Governor Adlai Stevenson, who established the Illinois State Police Merit Board many years ago, and that has been a form of civilian oversight that we've had in the history of the Illinois State Police without any controversy, without any concern over the past 60 years. And it has served us well because it helps to make sure that those concerns that were raised many years ago, that we're bringing in quality people based on merit, that they are disciplined based on merit, and if they commit some type of misconduct based on the facts, they can be disciplined and removed from the ranks. So as you can see, our rate of civil cases, our rate of those issues, complaints, use of force is very low, and in part because of the long 100-year legacy and the history of integrity and service and pride. Those are our values.
Just last week, you stood by your nominees to the Prisoner Review Board. Last night, Senate Democrats said that no convicted cop killers should ever be allowed out of prison under any circumstances. So when you said you stood by those appointees, did you also mean you stood by their decisions that they've made?
Look, let me start by saying that we appoint highly qualified candidates to serve on the Prisoner Review Board. This is a very difficult job. Let me just outline for all of you that every case that comes before them is a difficult one. Someone that comes before them has committed some awful crime in the past. And they're charged with looking at all the facts and circumstances from the beginning when the crime took place to their term in prison, and how they were rehabilitated or not, whether they caused problems when they were in prison or not, whether they would be a danger to the public if they were released. All those things are taken into consideration. By the way, a majority of the people that come before the Prisoner Review Board are rejected. So it's actually many fewer cases than anybody would like to admit that where they're actually recommending that someone be released. And I will just say it's an incredibly thankless job. Very difficult. We have Republicans on that board. We have Democrats on that board. They work together across the aisle. They don't even think, I think, of their party affiliation when they're doing the job. Now, to have Republicans attack them and their character and their biographies, to have Republicans essentially trying to tear apart this agency of government. I mean, this is what the GQP has been all about, tearing government apart. I think we ought to stand up for the integrity of the people that get appointed and the very tough decisions that they have to make, but obviously we're going to move forward and keep the PRB operating as best we can. Listen, I don't see all of the details of each decision that they make. It's easy to do what the Republicans do. They take the original crime that took place often decades and decades ago, and they just talk about the headline of that crime and don't talk about everything else that's occurred, including what the victims' statements have been, including the victims' families' statements, including other information that may have come forward in the subsequent decades in order to make their decisions. So it's hard to second guess the work that they do. It's very easy just to say this person committed an awful crime some many years ago and to say we're going to throw away the key, leave them all in prison. That's what you're going to end up with. If that's what people want, well, let's hear that. But I don't think that's what people wanted when we created the Prisoner Review Board. I support our police. I want them to get the resources that they need. In fact, if you look across not just our budget, but the Safety Act and the Reimagining Public Safety law, there's money in there that supports the work that police do. Let me remind you that probably the number one thing that we can do to simply alleviate the burden on local police departments is to fund mental health and substance use treatment. Because much of the time and effort that gets spent on the local level by police is taking people off the street who have mental health issues, putting them in a jail where they're not getting treated, and frankly, where their problem is getting worse. So we've got to support local police, and I do believe in providing the dollars that they need. You know, I have not seen the details of it. I look forward to reviewing it. I know that the Attorney General's worked very hard on it, and so, you know, I'm looking forward to making some judgments about it.
Director Kelly, ongoing discussions about recruitment and training.
I couldn't hear you, I'm sorry.
Do you know how long it will take to appoint enough members to get up to the quorum on PRB?
How long it will take? Well, obviously, we need to appoint members and make sure that the ones that are up ultimately get approved. So we're always working on, you know, making sure we have appointments available, but it is difficult when it all gets politicized and very highly qualified people get tossed, and to attract new people to do that job when the Republicans have highly politicized this thing makes it much more difficult. Sorry, Mike, I haven't taken a question from Mike.
Director Kelly, there's been ongoing discussions in committees about the best ways to recruit and also retain officers across the board. The state police have done a good job of that. What would you suggest for local departments to do that may be struggling with bringing new people in?
Well, look, let me start with, I think everybody looking at every profession right now sees that there's a shortage of labor. So we've got to do as much as every other industry is doing to make sure people know what the benefits are that you get for being a state trooper. Not just the direct dollars and salary, the benefits that they receive, not just all of that, but also the pride. I think you can see that this is a group of people who care deeply about one another, who stand up for one another when families are having difficulty, families of troopers, other troopers step in and help. And it's a brethren, a sisterin that really care for one another. And I think that's one of the things that we need to make sure people know about our state police. Obviously, local law enforcement, same thing. People need to stand up for one another. I think they do. And I think that's one of the attractive features. We also need to pay people properly. That's something I believe. We negotiated a contract to ISP when I first came into office that gave a raise to everybody across ISP. I really believe they have one of the toughest jobs that you can have in state government, and I'm very appreciative of it. Thank you. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you go. Yeah, go ahead. You got it. Yeah.
She's in charge. I don't, know my place. I think that all law enforcement is recruiting, from a set of limited people that are potentially going to be able to serve in those roles, and we are competing with an employment situation where other jobs are potentially available, and certainly continues to be a challenging and difficult job, and that's one of the reasons why sometimes you have those recruitment issues. You know, the environment for the ability to recruit police, it ebbs and flows. My great-great-uncle was a sheriff out in Connecticut. My grandfather was NYPD. He was a homicide detective. And throughout history, the way the public feels and interacts with law enforcement, that sentiment, it ebbs and flows. And I believe we're at a point where the respect for law enforcement and the desire to make sure that the role of law enforcement is strong and that it is within the expectations of the public is moving in a positive direction. And that's just not for the ISP, but it's also for all local law enforcement. And we certainly are very much appreciative of the fact that we're getting these serious investments within the governor's budget, but also within the broader context of the facilities, the other resources that we have to build up the ISP. But I think what you see is a very good discussion going on, that there will be additional resources for locals. And I think as long as the message that the governor just talked about here, the special nature of this job, the brotherhood and the sisterhood, the fact that it is not a job, it's a calling. It is a special calling. It is a special mission. And I think, and I'm optimistic, that there are a large number of people, particularly a younger generation, that want to serve, that want to be part of something that's greater than themselves. And this is a place for them to do it. We are 100 years old, and I'm looking forward to the next century of the ISP, where we bring that next generation in, and that we can build on our predecessors, and they are able to build on us going into the future.